Good evening, cricket fans. Talking cricket back. Tonight we're going to have to, much to our, we've got to big up Australia tonight. Rob in the green room said he was 51% India, Australia, 49% India. So we will come to that shortly. Massive shout out to Anthony Steele, who was the winner of the beer mats. So hopefully he's received them in the post. Nice little Christmas present, Ant, for you. If you are watching, look at the dogs there. Big fan of Australia, apparently. If you are watching live on YouTube, please do hit the like button, hit subscribe, and if you're watching back on catch up, please do the same. I think the show, hopefully, Gov will get it out as an audio sometime in the week. I know he's a busy man. I know Rob likes to get the audio out because he has several people like to listen. Anyway, tonight I am joined by Ian, Rob. I don't know if Kieran's here yet, but he is coming. He will be. There he is.
There he is.
Even with a yellow background. Look at that.
If I scan out a bit, you might be able to see the trophy case behind me.
Well, anyway, before we start, we'll go to Ian. We chatted in the green room before. Just talk us through. People who are watching, if you're on audio, this isn't very good. But if you're watching tonight, tell us about what you've got hanging behind you.
Well, they've not been strategically placed, but I do have the wicket-keeping gloves there and the thigh pad combination. The 2024 offerings from the...
Where are these available, Ian?
Limited numbers. Just get hold of me on Twitter or Instagram at Lofted on Drive. And the new batting gloves have just arrived as well. Pittard's palms. It's got a picture of Rob on there as well. I think that's why he's wanting a bit of a bat refurb. But excellent.
They would make a great Christmas present, Rob, for somebody.
Yeah, me.
Oh, there you go.
Cheers. Rich, you're too kind.
Secret Santa.
Secret Santa. Rich got Rob, Ian. Sort it out.
Done. Bit of a might be a dream team discount, Rob.
Absolutely stunning.
How are you, Rob?
Remarkably well, considering.
Are you happy? Are you happy?
I'm a happy guy. Yes. Mainly because that's now out of the way, isn't it? And we can move on. Yeah.
Well, yes. We will come. I will flick back in my notes over. I don't think there was many people got the correct winners, top run scorers, leading wicket takers. I think nobody. I don't even think anybody had Virat Kohli.
Mate, I think it will be fantastic later on to hear just how badly some of us have fared.
Anyway, how does it feel for another trophy in the cabinet then, Kieran?
Oh, you get used to it after a while. It's just another day for us Aussies.
Well, I do recall having you on here, and you actually wrote your boys off.
Yes, I know. If we go back, fair play to our lads. After 2 losses early on, I didn't even think we'd make the semis. But no, it's easy, isn't it, to sit up here on the high horse once we've won it.
Yeah, we'll probably have as less England chat tonight, Rob, as we can, because we've probably. We'll touch on the squad for the West Indies. We'll have a little look at that.
Kind.
Other than that, I think we will possibly. I did see you tweet saying this is probably the last show of the year. We maybe squeeze one in after the West Indies T20s and the 50 overs. That is the cricket
everyone's talking about.
I see today, Ian, they're bringing in a trial. Did you see about the 60-second rule in?
Yeah, like a stop the clock.
I think
they
have three chances, and then after the third one, I think it's a 5-run penalty, isn't it? They're going to give to the team.
That's what they're going to trial, yeah, I believe, and I think we've spoken about this previously on the pod about how do we get over rates higher? When there's a normal day, when there's no rain interruptions, etc. No injuries or anything of that nature. Because certainly fans here in the UK who are paying through the nose for test match tickets, I know this is going to be trialled in white ball. cricket first. But fans are getting ripped off. They're expecting to see 90 overs. It's a beautiful weather, cracking the flags, and they're 10, 12 overs short. Sometimes it's not really cricket.
It's not good enough, is it, really? Because you're paying a lot of money, and you obviously want to see a lot of cricket. Before we start, we talk about Australia. England men's disability team, Rob, extended their winning run to 13 years of a victory over Australia in the final of the Tri-Series. They've lost just 2 games in 42 games since 2010. Brilliant.
Fantastic. I know Essex are strong because one of our lads plays for Essex, and they are runners up nationally. So yeah, it's strong. Good to hear.
Big shout out to them. So shall we talk about Australia then, boys? Would you like to talk about Australia, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably give Kieran the floor for 30, 40 seconds.
Right. So we didn't do a show last week. I have to apologise. I was on my sick bed, so I had to cancel. So we didn't really cover the semi-finals because we were going to do that last week. Australia squeaked by South Africa. Low scoring affair, Kieran. 2-12 South Africa. What were they? 22 for 4. I think if they'd have got 250, I think they might have been in the game. But you just managed to just squeak over the line, didn't you? You're always ahead of the rate.
Yeah, and look, I must admit, I didn't watch much of the semi-final. I was actually watching the soccer that night, the Socceroos. I was texting you, getting score updates, and I said to you, if South Africa can squeeze it out to 250, I reckon they're in with a shot. And 250 might have been enough in the end, but you can't fall over like your top order did, and not just fall over, but I understand the pitch probably wasn't playing as well as some of the pitches had throughout the tournament, but I think they're only 40 odd after 15 overs. You just put yourself a long way behind the black ball, don't you? It takes a lot to catch up from there. And although Miller batted beautifully, they just never had enough runs on the board.
Yeah, fantastic innings by Miller, Rob, to give him a bit of a squeak. And then they were always a little bit behind the rate, weren't they? Obviously, yeah, Travis said, I think he hit 60, didn't he? So Aussies, I know they'd lost a few wickets, but they were always, unless South Africa bowled them out, they weren't going to restrict them.
For me, it was a proper game of cricket, sort of like the wham bam, thank you, ma'am had sort of gone, and it was proper sort of attritional cricket, and it was a bit like a sort of a league game in, wasn't it? It was just proper dig in. Here's the total. We've got this amount of time. The run rate doesn't really matter. If we're still batting, if we get to 50 overs, then we'll have won. So, and they dug in, and like you look at the numbers for Inglis, and certainly like Cummins has played 2 or 3 knocks. Like when he with Maxwell, he got the 200. He was just at the other end, wasn't he? They put on 200. He got 12 red. Unbelievable. So just the Aussies sort of showed that it wasn't all about Rohit and Virat and just Gill just clearing, just smacking it over mid-wicket on good decks. It was proper attritional cricket where the seamers have bowled slower balls, they've bowled cutters, the spinners have done their bit. Maxwell's a very average bowler, but he's done a bit of a job. Zampa was class, obviously, and he's good. He's a good bloke too. So batters just played. There was room for a Smith and a Labuschagne to bat 3-4 and bat properly because the other two got them off to a flyer, and then they had some finishers. They at the end of the day, India sort of played their way, and they just came a bit unstuck, didn't they? Because they didn't quite have that glue. Although Kohli needed to get 100, really, didn't he? Got in the final, he got 50, 60, and it was not enough. So Aussies played old school cricket, and that came through.
I think if you look, Ian, and I know you touched on, I think it was on the WhatsApp group on Sunday. We'll get onto the final about Labuschagne's innings. I think this is probably a little bit where England went wrong, didn't they? I think we said on one of the pods previously, England, I think they got in that mindset of sometimes it's like a 2020 when it's 50 overs is a long time to bat. I know you have your first 10, you can go hard then, but there's still room for proper cricket in there. And Australia showed with picking Labuschagne and Smith, they said minus, he was still, it was like they said, like Maxwell fell off the golf cart. There was always injuries that kept him probably in the team. And in the end, it benefited, didn't it, in the final when he got that 58 not out, that there's still room for proper cricket in 50 overs. to bat
There is.
properly.
I think it's about balance. I mean, it was a really good knock. 58 off 100 odd balls, whatever, 110 balls. It helps when you've got Travis Head at the other end doing what he's doing, and maybe you've got Maxwell's and things like that. I know that England fans have been critical of Milan in the past for being a little pedestrian. I think it was a very well controlled. They managed their game management, won them that game. I believe they'd lost early wickets, massive crowd behind them, and it was a good decision. It was a good decision at the toss, brave decision perhaps, but they batted properly. And as I say, the game management of that situation was brilliant. The way it silenced the crowds. I think I'd said to you, Richard, earlier in the morning that I just had a bit of a feeling that, it was time for India to perhaps have a bit of a bad game, and it was Australia's day. But certainly the way that England have been batting, and their theory is, if they're failing a little bit, is to go even harder.
Yeah.
I kind of get that, but sometimes you've got to play the circumstances and the situation, and you've got to get yourself in. And we've sometimes not done that. And the shot selection has been poor. You can't just swing the bat. A lot of the innings we've seen from Mitchell and others throughout the tournament, we've seen some great cricket. Really, all right, they've not been. For the neutral, they've not been really close games, but we've seen some tremendous cricket. But sadly, very, very little of it's been from England. And I think I don't think anybody's got a problem with the selections. I just think that they're good players that have underperformed both individually.
Yeah, I think you're right there. You're touching on, you mentioned Milan. He seems to, we're not going to talk a lot about England, Rob, but he seems to be, obviously they've picked the squads for the West Indies, and we'll go through them in a bit. He seems the fall guy, whereas he had quite a decent World Cup. When you think that, like Bairstow had a poor World Cup, Joe Root had a pretty. Milan, well, obviously Ben Stokes he was England's, I think, leading run scorer, but it's probably Milan's age, isn't it, Rob, that's gone against him now.
If you think back 4 years, Plunkett was in the bin straight away, wasn't he? And he was massive, and that's just professional sport, mate. There's no point in paying. I don't want to pay Milan a few quid, just to keep ticking. Move him on. He'll be as old as you by the time the next World Cup, Rich.
But they've given him another. Interesting that they give him a year. He's got a year's contract there.
Yeah, I think that's because they have to, because of the amount of games he's played. You can't just bin. I'm not sure. Ian's probably better than me at that, but
David Willey.
Move him on. Move Willie on. Move him on. Full white ball reset. Full reset. Start again. There we go.
We will talk about that. So, just quickly, Kieran, what did you make of the other semi, India, New Zealand? They changed pitches to play on in that game. Now, we'll talk about the pitch for the final, which I don't think was a great wicket. I'll talk to you, Ian, about that, because you obviously prepare wickets, but. What did you think, Kieran, about changing pitches for the India, New Zealand? In the end, they won comfortably, but why do they have to? India are good as it is, right? They don't need to be fiddling with wickets and whatever. I personally don't think that it takes away a little bit from how good a cricket team they are.
Yeah, I agree with that. I suppose every country has their own unique conditions. Like Australia, pitches are usually pretty hard and fast. Indians, dry, low. Over in England, the ball swings and does a bit of the same. But I suppose you don't need to doctor it any more than what the natural conditions already do. And as you said, India, throughout the tournament, probably the best team. You don't need that little bit of added, or that cloud just hanging over your head. Was it the team, or were the pitches just to suit them? I think it's odd, obviously, that they changed the pitch, but they don't need to do it. They just let the natural conditions look after themselves. That's where every player grows up in their own country, or most players, not Ben Stokes, but most players grow up in their own country. But and get used.
Hang on. Whoa. Josh English.
Marnus Labuschagne.
Born over. Well, there you go.
Yeah. but no, you grow up and you get used to playing in your own conditions. You don't need to make it any more obvious than what it already is. They would have played well regardless of the pitch, but there were questions obviously throughout the tournament.
Why Ian for the final? Why are they playing on I know that it was 5 weeks since they previously played on that pitch. Surely for a final, why are we not playing on a brand new wicket?
It's a great question. I mean, I know that a lot of the drop-in pitches that you have in Australia, for example, the squares aren't as big as the squares that we've got in England and Wales. You're probably looking at 10 foot per pitch. You've probably got 12, 14, 16 strips on some of the grounds. But the oval is all square. If you look from the helicopter cam, but so I think they're limited in the size of the squares. You would think that it would be a fresh, brand new pitch. Whether it's they could have gone hybrid if they've got an issue.
I think there was one. I think I see the picture, Ian, that there was the wicket sort of literally next door. Would have been a fresh wicket. And I know a lot of these grounds, obviously for TV purposes, don't they? They always want, obviously, in the centre. But it just seems strange to me. And I think a little bit, Rob. I think it's backfired on them a little bit. Obviously, it was a brave decision for Cummins when he won that toss.
Yeah,
to insert India, wasn't it?
It is, and India probably would have batted first anyway. But they chose to do what they wanted to do first, and they backed themselves and did it. I think India probably got the selection wrong. I'd have gone Ashwin ahead of Yadav. I'd have gone, if they knew it was going to spin, I probably would have gone Ashwin ahead of one of the seamers. I know they all three of them have bowled brilliantly, but I think if you're Smith, Labuschagne, you'd rather be facing Shami or who's the other one, Ian? Not Bumrah, the other one. Siraj. That's it. Thank you, Siraj. I think you'd rather face Siraj and Shami than probably Ashwin and Yadav and Jadeja. Might have put a different spin on it, but he played a couple of games, didn't he? But it did backfire. But it was almost that sort of perfect storm where they won every single game easily. There was going to be a bit of a comeuppance, wasn't it? It was a bit of very South African in the way that they kind of just choked at the business end, wasn't it? So, Ian touched on it earlier, but I just want to raise Rich just briefly. Like none of the I think there's a stat that only 6 games were close out of 51 or whatever it was. Only if your metric is 30 runs or 3 wickets, there's only 6 games that were close, and out of 51, that's just over 10%, isn't it? Which didn't make for a great World Cup.
Look, it was. We can talk about that now. It was a long, drawn out World Cup, wasn't it, Ian? And you think it's 7 weeks, and you could the format of the tournament. You could lose. How many did the Kiwis? Did they lose 4 games and still qualify for the semi-finals? I think there wasn't a lot of jeopardy for them teams. You could have won the World Cup by losing 4 games. I know in the end it didn't work out that way. Obviously, India, they only lost 1 at the end. And I see the BCCI, I think they're trying. I think the next World Cup's going to be 14 teams. I think they want to cut it down. I see today I was reading because obviously more teams. I think they're going Super 6 next tournament, which we've done before. What's your thoughts, Ian? Was it too long? Was it too drawn out?
It did seem a long tournament, but I guess there was loads.
Would that be? Would we be thinking? Would we be thinking differently, Ian, if England had done well? Would we not be sitting here saying, "Oh, it was a long, drawn out process"? Because if England were in the latter stages, we'd have probably been enjoying it a little bit more.
I think there's there are elements of truth in what you said there. I think irrespective of how England have done, there was some quite enjoyable performances, if not close games. I quite like the concept that you play all the teams. I thought that was, in theory, I thought that was a good idea, because then you've not got a situation, oh well, such and such a team didn't play this team, or New Zealand, well, they didn't come up against India, did they? All these kinds of things were taken out of the equation.
But then don't you get to that stage, Ian, when you get to the sort of latter stages of the groups where you've got a lot of sort of dead games, if you're going through that process?
Well, I think you're possibly right. I think the bottom line is that the schedule and the format was dictated by television.
Yeah,
and I think that's the elephant in the room really is, what India says is what happens, and it was their tournament. They used to sort of putting these things on with the IPL, so they're aware of what the TV schedule should be, based on the international cricket and the IPL. So, that's the big thing. I mean, changing the pitches and all of this kind of thing and all those choices. Indian cricket is such a powerful beast that essentially they can probably do what they want to a certain degree, and I think they have a massive say in it because of the revenue that it creates. I think they should change the format. I quite like it when it's groups. I quite like it when you've got a couple of games in the day, or it's difficult to watch. 200 overs, of course, but it'd be interesting to see what they do. But again, it's one of these things in cricket where it's not consistent. They're changing it, and if they change it and it's going to make it better, that's absolutely fabulous. But then they'll change it again, and I just think there needs to be an element of consistency. The non-test playing nations, or the second division nations, if you will, I think they need to have a bit of a bite of the cherry. So going in a sort of a two-phase thing where they open it up, and then the more established teams come into the tournament. Yes, it might make it long, but it depends on the format that they choose. But I'd like to see more teams involved, because I think we need to grow the game globally.
We'd like to see the West Indies in there as well, wouldn't we?
We would in our house. Yeah.
Look, we missed them. I think a World Cup without the West Indies. I know they're not great at the minute, but to me, doesn't sit that right. But look, it is what it is. They didn't qualify.
Rich. I want Dwayne Leverock, and I want John Davidson, and I want Kenya getting to the semi-finals.
Oh, what a catch! Is that the diving one-handed catch?
Poor old Jez is in Australia. Obviously, there's no West Indies. England have been absolutely terrible, and of course, Australia have been really. They got better and better. So,
and he's injured.
And yeah, he's got a side strain. Apart from that,
it doesn't seem to matter, Kieran, what sort of format the tournament is. Australia, they always seem to be there at the business end of the tournament. And look, on this show, we have given Cummins a little bit of stick as skipper, through the summer, saying, "Oh, he's not a great captain." Hang on, look what he's done this summer: World Test Championships, 2-2 in the Ashes, right? Moral victory for England. You know that, and I do know that as well. So does Rob. So does Ian.
Yeah. It's up on the trophy up here. This is moral victories. This one. and obviously won the World Cup. So I don't think anymore we can question Pat Cummins as a captain. I honestly don't think you can. I think he had a really good tournament as captain. I was one of the first during the Ashes to criticise his field placements and some of the choices he was making, but I think the whole tournament, he's had very good tournament. Not just leadership in terms of sending India into bat, choices as a captain. I think he's bowled quite well. And then, as we mentioned earlier in the pod, 2 or 3 occasions he's added. Well, with Maxwell, he was there to win the game with him, but there have been another couple of occasions where he's put 20, 30 runs. In a late part.
The semi-final was in with Stark, wasn't he, at the end?
Yep, that's just been enough to get them over the line.
I think he said before the game, Kieran, about one of the things they wanted to do was silence the crowd. Obviously, I think no one knows what the official attendance was. I think it was probably about 98,000 in the end, they said.
Yeah.
Probably about 200 Aussies there. And when you're watching that start, the noise was unbelievable. And they went to what? 76 for 1. They were off 9.3 overs, right? And they're rocking along. Rohit Sharma's on 47. Talk to me about that catch from Travis Head, because for me, that turned the game on its head. Literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very tough catch. Not just take the skill away in a closed environment. If that was at a training session, that's a tough catch to take. But you had the pressure of being the World Cup final in front of close to 100,000 fans. The noise. It appeared that it like swirled a little bit too as he was running back. He had to sort of change his line, and then virtually at full stretch, running in the opposite direction.
Covered in red paint as well, because it was right where that advertising bit was on the field as he slid.
Yeah. No, look, excellent catch. And there've been a couple of sliding door moments, I suppose, for the Aussies throughout the tournament where catches have gone down. Warner got dropped against Pakistan early. He went on to make 100. Maxwell got dropped a couple of times in his 200. And I know the Aussie catching the first couple of games wasn't flash, but in those big moments where it's could go either way, it's just a really, really critical catch in the context of the game, in the context, obviously, of the tournament.
I think if you look, Rob, in the semi-finals and the final, Warner and Labuschagne in that ring there, they were absolutely fantastic. The final, I think the first 5 overs, they must have saved 15 runs easy, getting down.
Yeah, I mean, they were all over 30, Kieran, weren't they? Whole team?
That sounds about right. I think they would have saved, in that first over alone, I think they saved 3 boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. An aging team, but also what is age? You've got 30-something throwing themselves around. Like Warner's been one of the best, as much as I hate him, has been one of the best fielders for 12, 15 years. He's unbelievable. And they will just sort of feed off that. Fair play to India. They've improved their fielding, haven't they, in the last sort of 10, 15 years compared to where they were at. So it's a crucial part of the game. Great catch by Travis. Great catch. Absolute game changer. Because if he doesn't bury that, you reckon Rohit just goes crazy and they get 350. But huge moments. That's why batting is a lot harder than bowling. Bowlers, you get all these chances. Batters, you get one life. Sometimes you don't even get one.
You think Rohit there? He's done the hard work, Ian. I know you'll say, did he need to play that shot? On the flip side, you could say, look, he's done it all tournament and he's given the flying start. He's already taken, I think, 10 off the over. He's at a 6. He's at a 4. There's only 3 balls left, I think, of the power play. Does he really need to do that?
Well, it's a big call, isn't it? I mean, shot selection's such a huge thing in all forms of cricket. I think, given the fact that the pitch wasn't an absolute shirt front, I think you've got to be a little bit more selective. Like you say, he'd done enough, for that over. I mean, I think I haven't got the stats in front of me, but the Aussies chased down 5 and over to win the game. So, where that is a winning score, you don't need to be getting 16 off and over. It's handy if you do. Look, he's played that shot. Yes, that's the way he plays, and he's a tremendous hitter of the ball. But he missed the time that when he was out, and that you play like that, and you don't quite strike it as clean. You don't put it into the stand. You put it in the air, you might get caught, and it was a great catch.
Yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And then from overs, I think 11 to 50, Rob, it was amazing that they only hit 4 boundaries. I mean, they literally, Australia squeezed the life out of them, didn't they? Strangled them.
Absolutely, mate. No, it's really good discipline from them, and India have gone into the shell of it. I think my point about Ashwin, I didn't really finish, but I know it's one player, but Ashwin at 8 looks hell of a better than Bumrah and Shami. I mean, that is a long tail. There's a lot of poles available there, So, the Aussies strangled them, and I think India they got nervous, didn't they? Got stage fright a little bit, into a shell. Probably 70 short in the end, weren't they? But,
Yeah, look, I think that was always the fear of India, wasn't it, Rob? The tail. It was only, I think, the England game when we bowled them out for obviously 230, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean,
but other than that, they've not really had to bat, have they?
No, that's the thing. I mean, here we go, Ian. It's incoming in 3, 2, 1, Ian. Bowlers bowl and batters bat. There we go. Get it on the bingo card. Always the same. Yeah, they didn't look like squirreling away any runs really down the bottom end. They're good for a couple here, couple there, a couple of wahoos. It probably cost them, didn't it? Because, like you said, Rich, because they didn't get a bat, they were a bit out of it. But it's that argument, isn't it? Batters bat, bowlers bowl. I say you probably need 2 all rounders at 7-8. Wicket keeper bats. Yeah. Like I said earlier, it's you batters. You get one life when you bat, and you get one ball. You might get a good one. You might get one rolls along the floor on an old deck or whatever, or great catch, great run out, LBW decision. Yeah, and India sort of put their eggs in the basket, and they live by the sword and die by the sword. It's easy to sit here now and say Rohit should have just knocked it down the ground for 1. It's easy to say that, but if he goes 25 off the over, and Maxwell's gone, and they're flying. It's the small margins, and that's why it's such a great sport to watch. Yeah,
I think at the end of the innings, I think it was Jadeja they promoted, Ian. I think they put him up the order. He went up 1 slot. And then when you've got Shami at 8, Sky was in with him. And he didn't know whether to... I think he got about 18 off 28 balls. He didn't know whether to stick or twist. He knew that he was their last sort of hope. So he didn't really know what to do. He was sort of caught in the middle there. But if you look at Australia and Cummins in their middle overs, Ian... reminds me a little bit of Plunkett when he was playing for England. Where we spoke about it on the pod previously in this tournament. England had no one in their middle overs to take them wickets. Now, if you've got someone in the middle overs, like when Plunkett was playing, you're always chipping away and you're getting them wickets and you to stop the score. And you look at India at the end there, they got bowled out. So I think Pat Cummins, he sort of found that little niche, that little role in the team that he was bowling them slow ball bounces, wasn't he, into the wicket, pace off. Didn't know what to do, India, did they?
Yeah, I mean, it's and Rob makes a really good point. I mean, obviously, the India have been backing their top 5 or 6 batters. They're not interested really in what the tail can do, although some of them can, swing the bat. I think Cummins has been one of the players of the tournament, not only from his captaincy, which I think is improving, but very important runs, like I say, the Stark and Cummins put 22 on to win that semi. But if you look at his numbers, 3 for 51 off 9.4 overs in the semi-final. I can't remember exactly what he got, but he only went for 3.4 and over in the final. And he's a test match fast bowler. He's somebody that's playing both formats here. And he's playing them very, very well. And I believe, from memory, I'm guessing here actually, but I think he's probably the only fast bowling captain to lift the World Cup, because everybody else has been an all rounder or a batter or whatever. I'm not too sure if that's correct, but he's been one of the players of the tournament for me. Pat Cummins, he's bowled really well, and they're seamers. We think about it's all about spin. We've seen some great spin bowling, and there's been Zampa, but Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins have been consistently good for most of the games. I know they had a bit of a poor start, but they're seam bowlers. I think one of the apart from Travis Head, but they were a key part of what they did in the final. So every credit to them. They deserve it. They deserve to win, and every credit to them.
I think Mitchell Stark, I see the stat about him, Kieran, the other day. That's 65 wickets now he's taken in 3 World Cups. Little bit out of sorts. There's a bit of talk when they rested him, I think, for the Bangladesh game. He needed a run and he didn't get it there. But he's come back in the semi-final. And he got 3 for 55 in the final. He just showed his class, didn't he? Yeah,
and it's the kind of bowler that always goes for a few runs, but he's going to take your wickets. And you need, as you're saying, you need a bowler that you can turn to when it's not going your way. Just throw him the ball and know look, you might go for a few runs, but you're going to break this partnership, and that's what we need at the moment. Stark's always been good for that, especially in conditions where the ball's moving around a little bit in those humid conditions. And he's one of the few bowlers throughout the tournament that will regularly hit that Yorker. I think we spoke earlier in an earlier pod about the inability for bowlers to bowl consistent Yorkers. They're very hard to get away. Stark's got a really mean Yorker. Always good for a couple of wickets. Just going back to Rohit as well, I watched his innings, and he goes really hard, but he's a classical shot player. He doesn't tend to slog. And there were a couple of shots early on where he sort of just played across the line a little bit. And I just had the feeling that even though he was going pretty well, that maybe the atmosphere and the game and the pressure on him as captain, maybe he was just going a little bit too hard. And then, as we saw, he's put one up in the air where he probably didn't have to.
Yeah, I think you have to give Hazelwood credit as well, Kieran, because he had a really the semi-final against South Africa. He had that ball on a bit of string. The first 10, 12 overs, he got 2 for 60 in the final Sunday. Look, I think when you look at the Australian team there, it's virtually, apart from a couple, it's your test team, isn't it?
Yeah. It'd be interesting now because English, once he came in, actually had a fairly good tournament, I think.
Big call that, wasn't it? After one game, they axed Kieran, didn't they? And he went.
But it'd be interesting to see come our test summer whether they go back to Carey or whether English now has the shirt. But like you said, our bowling lineup: Hazelwood, Stark, Cummings. There are 3 frontline test bowlers. Warner, Labuschagne, Smith. They're a top order for the tests. Majority of that team is made up of the test players.
I see Warner. There's a bit of talk about Warner, Rob, carrying on till the next World Cup. He's saying.
Yeah, well, he has said he doesn't want a contract because he doesn't like doing the stuff that the what's the word I'm looking for? The publicity stuff that goes alongside it. So he doesn't want a contract, but he'll play if he's good enough. So if he's good enough, then it's up to he's fit enough, isn't he?
He had a decent World Cup, 535 runs, Rob.
Yes, more than I got. So
not a great shot in the final.
Well, we've talked about Rohit, haven't we? It's the same category, isn't it? So
yeah, very, very true.
You need players like that.
Yeah, interesting, Ian. So the Aussies have just won the World Cup. Yet on Thursday, they've got a T20 series starts in India.
I noticed that. I mean, again, the issue is that it's cricket all year round now, isn't it? And it does seem I mean, I don't think it's going to be the same squad of players.
I think there's about 6 or 7 in for Australia. India, I think Sky's captain, and I think there's a couple who are in the squad. Kishan and another one. Other than that, it's like it's a virtually new squad that they've picked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's an opportunity for those guys, but World Cup or not, it never stops, does it? It's interesting. I saw some comments on social media about it being a bit close to the World Cup, but the juggernaut marches on. That's modern cricket.
I think it was the same with England, wasn't it, when we won the T20 World Cup in Australia, and then they were. Because I think you comment on that, Ian, saying like if you're pulling on them 3 lines, and look, I think they said, Kieran, I think by the time they finish these T20s, I think when they get back to Australia, I think the Big Bash starts, and then I think on the 14th, I think your Test series against Pakistan starts.
Yeah, look, personally, I don't understand it. Like they've been away 7 weeks for the World Cup. Yeah, money obviously, but.
Oh,
perspective.
Oh, he's back.
So, from a personal and a human perspective, they've been away from Australia for 7 weeks for this tournament. They've just won it. Give them a chance to come back, celebrate with friends.
Yeah,
bring the trophy back to Australia. Have a bit of downtime, just to go straight into what's essentially a meaningless series, I suppose. The T20 games. I think just from a personal point of view. Obviously, there's revenue involved in it, but I think it's probably a bit much. If I was playing, if I was in the squad and I just won the World Cup, I'd be looking to get the first plane back to Australia and go and see my family and celebrate with some friends.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So 240 India scored, and they were looking a bit dicey, Ian, at 47 for 3 off, I think, 7 overs. Obviously, Warner went. Marsh, not the greatest shot, nicked one behind. Steve Smith, if he has his time again, he will be kicking himself he didn't review that, because it's a bit of a stinker there, isn't it? He's walked off and he's pitched outside, hit him outside the line.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what makes the innings of Head and Marnus, doubly important and such good knocks, because it was a pretty poor start, and watching some of the balls that were, swinging and going past the bat, and Marsh was putting his bat out like he'd not played before. Genuinely, it was difficult. I think it was difficult early on. It was a good start for India. They'd have been more than happy, but tremendous batting. The way that the lads batted there, superb. It's a low total, and even in club cricket, you can think, well, it's a low total, but is it a low total because the pitch is a bit dodgy or whatever? Always find you're more focused if it's a slightly higher total, and you know what you've got to do, and you've got benchmarks. If it's a bit of a low total, there's always a bit of trepidation there. So every credit to them. Yeah, they very much deserved.
I know you said about Ashwin, Rob. You were a bit surprised he didn't get picked. It was interesting. So Siraj had opened the bowling all tournament. In the final, I know Shami, obviously, he ended up leading wicket taker. They've given him the new ball. Interesting move, that is.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't really have much of an angle on that, mate, to be honest. You've got 3 quality seamers. They've gone with a gut instinct, and maybe to do what the Aussies didn't expect, perhaps. But
yeah, they said Shami's decent against left-handers. Obviously, had 2 left-handers, didn't they? And he obviously nicked off Warner early. But when they're 47 for 3, the crowd is absolutely, yeah. And you're thinking then, you just need to take that sting out of the game, don't they? And Head and Labuschagne, they did. They played and missed a little bit. They had a little bit of luck. For me, one of the turning points of that innings, Rob, was when Shami come back for his second spell. First ball he comes in, Head pumps him straight back over his head for 4.
Yeah,
and I thought, yeah, right, and he did, didn't he?
I think Head went. I think I'm going to use one, Rich. I think he went. I think this bowling's a little bit trolley, so he tucked in. Bingo.
But it was the mindset, Kieran, that he's come back on. He's obviously their main bowler, Shami, and he's took him down. And then I think Bumrah come back on. He took him for, I think he'd taken for, there was 15 off that over there. The close LBW, Marnus, I think it was umpire's call. He went up on the screen and you see all the Indians obviously needed a wicket then. But Travis said, look, fair play to the selectors. Broke his hand, didn't he? And he missed, was it the first 5 games?
Yeah.
It could have been, look, you'd lost the first 2 games. It could have been, he could have turned up there. You could have been all but out of the tournament. But you've obviously turned it round. And in the end, not just with the bat, obviously with his catch in the field, got some crucial wickets in the semi, didn't he, against South Africa. Yeah. He got Klaassen and he got Janssen out 2 in 2 there. I think just all round, as a cricketer, there's a bit of talk that it won't be yet. He will probably be the next Australian captain, they reckon.
Yeah, there was talk even during the Ashes series who could take over when Cummins was coming under a bit of criticism, and Head's name got thrown up there back then. But getting back to his injury, it's not like it's a hamstring or something where you can still get in the nets and have a hit. I think leading into that first knock, the first game he was selected in, he'd only had 1 net session with some throwdowns, hadn't faced any of the bowlers. and come in and peels off 100. And look, over the last probably 18 months to 2 years, Travis Head's just gone from strength to strength. I think they sort of unleashed him a little bit. He came into the test side and sort of scratched around it, and he'd make the odd 100, and then he'd fail for 4 or 5 in a row. But somebody's obviously had a word to him and said, look, just play your natural game. If see ball, hit ball, go after the bowlers. And since he's sort of made that switch at test level, and it's obviously carried through now into the one days as well, he's probably been our best batsman over the last 2 years. And to come in, as you said, very underdone and get the 100 to start off with, and then under immense pressure in the final, that's right up there with one of the probably innings of the tournament for me.
I think only the third time, Ian. I think they said Mahinda Amanaf in 83, Shane Warne in 99, Head in 2023. They each got man of the match in the semi-final and in the final. He's quite an interesting player when I watch him, right? Because obviously we chatted quite a lot about him in the summer.
Yeah.
They said couldn't play the short ball. He looked pretty decent to me when he kept pumping it into the stands at Headingley. He gives himself a little bit of room, and he sort of gives his stumps away a little bit sometimes. Stays a bit leg side of the ball, doesn't he? But he's just got a fantastic eye.
Yeah, I mean, I think in previous discussions, probably a while back, we were saying he was, he's a bit of a, he's sitting a lot onto the onside, but he was playing all around the wicket. And when obviously he got injured and Australia were playing South Africa, when England's warm-up was against Ireland, no disrespect to any Irish viewers there, but it was, he was absolutely gutted coming off, when he knew he'd busted his hand. So you felt sorry for the lad. So it's a great story that he's come back from that injury, with very little preparation, and in this side that had struggled the first couple of games. Some of the hitting absolutely tremendous, but he has been in good, as Kieran says, he's been in good form the last 18 months, and very important. I thought when he was injured and not playing, I'm surprised for one that he came back. I thought without Travis Head, the Australians aren't going to be looking as good, but he came back, and absolutely fantastic effort.
It's quite interesting, Rob, how it works out cricket, because they said if Head hadn't got injured, Labuschagne probably wouldn't have made the cut for their squad, because he wasn't in the squad, was he? He was a backup player.
I think they had two injured at one stage. I think New Zealand had even 2 or 3 going into the England game, where it was pretty light pickings, wasn't it? But they clearly rate him, they clearly back him, and took the risk a little bit that they get through to when he could play, and it was absolutely the right call, wasn't it? So fair play to the selectors, brave decision. England sort of did the same with Stokes. It could have been the same with Stokes. He didn't play the first few, did he? So there we go, getting England back in again.
We will have a little bit of England chat in a minute, because we don't want to talk about Australia all night, do we, Kieran?
Has he got the best mustache in world cricket?
Filthy, isn't it?
Yeah,
interesting.
Right.
So we were on about England. We were on about England, Kieran, and not playing a lot of cricket. They hadn't played together as a team. They said before you went to India, didn't you? Before the World Cup, you had I think you played 5 one-days there, which probably helped you. Before that, I think Cummins had only captained twice in ODI cricket, Australia, and then he obviously played in the lead up there. Do you think that helped you? Obviously, England were playing over in our conditions, playing New Zealand, and there was a few knockabouts against Ireland, a bit of weather about. That probably benefited you playing out in them conditions in India, I would have thought.
Well, you'd think so, but we did lose our first couple of games. So, we obviously grew into the tournament. Whether that was form or it's hard to judge, isn't it? Playing in the conditions is obviously going to help, but we did lose our first couple of games, and then we went from strength to strength. Whereas, so I'll use England, for example. I'm not trying to hang too much shit, but they started okay and then fell away and just could not get going, could they?
No, we didn't get going. Not at all. Right. Well, I've got the team of the tournament here, boys. So I'll go through it, and if there's any players you think should have been in who weren't in, right? This is the official ICC team of the tournament. Quinton de Kock, Rob, he's in there. 594 runs. Rohit Sharma, he's the other opener. Then we've got, obviously, Virat Kohli had a fantastic tournament. He was player of the tournament. He's 765 runs. He obviously got his 50th 50 past Tendulkar. Your man's in there at 4. Daryl Mitchell. He's in at 4. Ian. Obviously had a great World Cup. 552 runs. Kale Rail. Obviously, he had a decent World Cup. 452. He had the gloves.
De Kock can take the gloves for me.
Well, this is what I'm a bit surprised he got in.
I'd have gone Rachin Ravindra.
Well, he's not in, and I am absolutely amazed that he's not in because he's one of my players of the tournament. I thought
did the BCCI was it created by the BCCI?
Possibly, and he's got some great locks as well. Ravindra, hasn't he, Rob?
Good start.
Great Barnett. Glenn Maxwell's in at 6. He obviously got 400 runs. Kieran, he's obviously in for his innings against Afghanistan there, and he got another ton. I know you didn't think a lot of his ton against the Netherlands, did you really, off 40 balls?
No. I don't know. Let's say he's had 2 good knocks, okay, but he's made 400 runs, and 370 of those been in 2 innings, and then he's failed in the other 4. I don't know if that gets you in the team of the tournament.
6, he got 6 big poles. 6 poles.
There you go. Anyway,
trolley.
He got a big wicket on finals. I know he went for 35 or 6 overs. He got the big fish. Right, 7. We've got Jadeja. This is definitely picked by the BCCI, Rob.
Get it in the bin.
We've got Jasprit Bumrah batting at 8, so it's definitely picked by them.
It's the Indian of them.
Courtney Walsh is better than him batting.
Madhushankar, he's in at 9. He had a great World Cup. 21 wickets. Adam Zampa at 10. Mohammed Shami is in at 11. And the 12th man, he had a really good World Cup. This guy in, Gerald Coetzee for South Africa.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they didn't have Nokia, did they? So
no, he came in for him, didn't he?
And he did, and the way that he played as well. I think he was, played with his heart on his sleeve a little bit. I think cricket fans would like him for that. But he did okay.
Who are you taking out of that team then, boys? You're bringing in Ravindra, Rob. You're losing Raul. Anyone
Get
else?
Raul out. And who's the other one? Oh, come back to me.
Shami at 8. Bumrah's at 8.
Swap those 2 round for starters. Shami's a far better. I hate saying it, but Shami's a better batter than Bumrah for what it's worth.
Well, yes,
they've got Jadeja in as well. Get rid of Jadeja.
He was. What did he have? Economy rate of 4.25. It says with the bat he played an important role at number 7, scoring 120 runs in 5. No. He didn't really shine with the bat, did he?
I think Kieran's in agreement that really Maxwell's got picked on two knocks against Holland and Afghanistan. I think I'd probably go Jadeja. Yeah, there's an argument Jadeja over Maxwell really because he's scored 2 knocks against associate nations. Yeah,
look. If you're looking at the Aussies here, Steve Smith didn't have a great World Cup, Kieran. 302 runs. Travis Head 329. Marnus 362. Maxwell 400. Sean Marsh 441. Warner 535.
I think absent friends and all that, but I think there's probably room for Chris Wokes in there.
Well, right. Interesting you say that. Right, we will now we will come on to the 2 England squads, Rob, for the 3 one-dayers, and we've got
It's the only cricket people want to hear about, Rich.
Yeah, so we've got 5 T20s, 3 ODIs. So the ODI squad: Butler, Ahmed, Atkinson, Brook, Cass, Crawley, Curran, Duckett, Hartley from Lancashire's in there. Ian, he's in. Bit of left arm. Bowls a bit left arm, didn't he?
Well, he's a good fielder and he gives it a biff. So,
Left arm slow.
Will Jacks.
Ben Wilkins.
Will Jacks, Livingston, Ollie Pope, Salt, Tongue, Turner. So
Fine.
not many have survived the World Cup there, Rob. But then we go to the T20 team and we've got Butler Ahmed, Moeen Ali still gets a gig. Not quite sure how. Gus Atkinson, Brooke Curran, Duckett, Jacks, Livingston. Tymel Mills, we'll come back to him because I think he's very... had his time for me. Rashid's, he's in the T20s. Salt, Tongue, Topley, Turner. And Chris Wokes has made the T20 team, Rob.
Well, absolutely ridiculous because I think people who follow the pod, those with a bit of nous, know full well that Chris Wokes doesn't travel. I mean, he's got a great salad. He's good. He's a great bloke.
He does travel. He does travel abroad.
Travel well. They need to be dialing into this pod, mate, and paying attention. I'm glad for Mills, though. Good player. Played against him once. Did I not tell you?
How did you get on? Did you face him?
I did. Yeah, no. It's more than a few times. When he was about 15, 16, mate, when it was absolute spray gun.
Was he playing for Millwall then?
No, before then. For Brandon in Division 5 on a municipal wicket.
Oh, blimey.
Yep.
Spray gun. No, very short backlift. Lovely guy, absolute legend of a guy. I bumped into him. I took a school party to Chelmsford a few years ago, and he wandered over and had a good chat with us. And top bloke, remembered me. Good bowler. I love him doing well. I was pleased for Topley in the World Cup to sort of come through all those injuries and stuff, but the left armers are worth their weight in gold, aren't they? They really are. And he's one of the sort of original sort of T20 slower bouncers, Yorkers, bits bowlers, and local lad as well. So good on him.
What do you think to the squad, Ian, for both of them? Any surprises?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that they've picked Turner. I mean, he only played a couple of county championship games. He was born in Johannesburg, by the way. He was referring to cricketers from other locations. It doesn't strike me as being particularly experimental. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I think you've got to get the likes of Tong in there and other players. I like to see Salt. I'm a big fan of his, and not just because he's at Lancashire now, but I think he's a good cricketer. Be interested to see if Cars gets a game or if he's just going there again to get his air miles like he did in the World Cup.
I mean, Matt, I'm surprised they've taken him. He's probably knackered.
Well, he probably is. He probably is, but he's he's good at getting through customs. But he's that's interesting. Listen, I just hope it's going to be a good series. I mean, West Indies cricket, it needs it, doesn't it? I think the last time England were in the West Indies, they got the tummies tickled slightly, so they'll have some scores to prove. I know it's white ball cricket. Are we learning anything by taking the likes of Rashid and Wokes?
I think these are the only T20s, Ian, I think that we've got before the next World Cup. I think that's in June. That is in. Where are we going? It's in America and West Indies, I think. Yeah, I think it's Caribbean and America, isn't it? So
Side.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Right, before we don't want to talk about England much because we've had a nightmare, Rob. What is going on? I don't know if anyone's been reading with Pakistan cricket. I mean,
classic.
Baba's gone. Wahab Riaz is the new chief selector?
He's probably the new batting coach.
Shah Massoud, not played Test cricket for 2 years. He's the new Test captain, and is he still going to be Yorkshire captain as well, Ian, next year?
Ask Neil.
I don't know. You'd probably have to ask Neil that. I know that the county championship fixtures are out in 2 days, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, that is. I did see that this morning.
You would imagine. I mean, obviously Pakistan are over this summer, aren't they? So it'd be interesting to see how he divides his time.
We've got Sri Lanka and West Indies are over this summer.
Oh, for Test matches, but Pakistan are over.
Are they?
Summer, I think.
Have we got some white ball cricket against them?
We got some white ball, some 100 games in March.
No, I believe.
Well, Shri makes it
Unless
still
I've read that wrong, but I think, yeah, England. I'm gonna have to check it now because I think I'm going mad.
So obviously they're
What
heading
about
to.
not
They're heading.
travelling well. This travelled well. It's from
There we go,
Southeast
look.
Australia.
Look
Jock
at this.
McPherson. It's not a Scottish wine, although with global warming in 10 years' time, they will be making Cabernet Sauvignon in Dundee. I've got to check this England. Talk amongst yourselves, gents, while I have a look at that.
So how many tests have they got in Australia, Kieran, against Pakistan? 3?
it'll be a 3-test series, I think.
Yeah, I'm reading here. Hassiv Ralph has pulled out, withdrew from the test tour, citing workload management, a claim that has been now refuted by the latter. A close source to Riyadh states the 30-year-old never gave the green signal for test down under, thus withdrawing last moment. Does not. Yeah, look, I think Shine, you're on mute.
I was just going to say, an absolute abhorrent lack of wickets and going for absolute trolley at the World Cup might be cited as well.
Yep, but I think he's probably made the correct decision there not to tour Australia, because I think they're going to get absolutely pumped out there. If I'm not, it's a hard gig for Masood, Rob, in his first gig as captaincy.
Yeah, I really like him. His numbers in England for Derby and are probably sky high 55, 60 plus. Good player, right player, the right guy to do it. I mean,
I
nothing
think
wrong with Abbott, Jesus.
Shai Afridi's going to be the T20 captain, I think.
Oh Jesus.
Well, just on that then, Richard, yes, I have checked. We've got 4 T20s in at the back end of May against Pakistan.
Oh, so that will be before we go to the World Cup, man.
Yeah.
There you go. So that'll be a good warm-up. But Pakistan cricket, Ian, it never fails to amaze me. Baba, he's out on his ear, but he will probably captain again sometime soon, I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's difficult to judge, isn't it? Because I think there was a lot of disappointment with the World Cup, and they do sort of chop and change. It's not as consistent as perhaps the English Cricket Board. It does seem crazy, but they're making those changes.
They've also appointed Umar Gul and Syed Ajmal as bowling coaches.
Well, Gul was a decent enough bowler. I mean, listen, they're very disappointed with their performances, and they've made some changes. So but yeah,
was it Umar Gul who gave Shane Watson the hurry up in? Was it what World Cup was that, or was it the T20? He was bowling rapid, wasn't he, Rob? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I do. I was just a young lad at the time.
I don't think he was. Anyway, quickly before we go, I just want to talk to Kieran about Matthew Hayden was on the coverage. I don't know if you see him, Kieran, out in India,
and his daughter as well.
What was the hat he was wearing? It looks ridiculous. Do you see it?
No, I haven't seen the hat. I noticed he's a bit light. He's a bit light on for feathers at the moment.
Big lad.
He is a big lad. He was always
big old boy.
He was always big barrel tested, but he's obviously enjoying retirement. He's a very solid bloke.
Anyway, any other business before we close? We've done just over an hour, lads.
No harm. All good.
I'm intrigued very, very quickly. I'm intrigued at what's happening at Sussex.
Yes.
Because Ali Orr has gone to Hants, and
not happy
and Ian Gould, who had backroom jobs there, have packed in as a in protest. So
very highly rated. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, Farbrace is coming under some sick because apparently it's him that's making the decisions. Although it's difficult to stop a player going if they've got a better option. So
I think he was injured, wasn't he, last season? I was reading, and obviously, wants to play in Division 1 at Hampshire. So I think this is the way that it goes now. If there's any decent players in Division 2, you're going to be probably snapped up. Probably like Worcester, a little bit like Worcester when they get sort of all their players.
But you say that, Rich, but we've just got promoted to Division 1 ourselves.
Well, yeah, we'll see how you get on down at Chelmsford next year.
We'll get absolutely pumped, mate, because we lost all our players to bloody Notts.
Warwickshire, usually.
Boring.
Anyway, any other business? Kieran?
Nothing else to say.
Look, the only thing I'll bring up is I've played cricket with a couple of first-class cricketers from Sri Lanka, so it's sad to see what's happened with their cricket board. Hopefully, hopefully they can sort themselves out sooner rather than later, because the lads I played with were fantastic fellas.
I think they're allowed to play, aren't they? But they can't do the under-9s. They can't host the
Where's that
under-9s.
Where's that going to, Rob? Ian, I see that that's not going to be held in Sri Lanka, the under-19s World Cup. Do you know where it's going to be held?
No.
Qatar.
Quickly.
Qatar, is it really?
No,
it's not. It's not. Anyway,
Finland.
We will do another, hopefully one more pod before
Suffolk.
Christmas. Before Christmas. When are you netting, Rob? Anytime soon?
April. Don't tell Ben.
Oh, I see Barfield. Barfield are netting already.
Folding.
They're looking for new players.
Mate, we're at Hills Road in January. New players welcome.
There you go. Any other business, Ian?
No, it's a pleasure to be on the podcast with you, gentlemen.
Get your Bat Whisperer gear for Christmas. At Lofted on Drive on Twitter. It's not X. I will not have anybody calling it X. It is Twitter. It will always be Twitter, won't it, Rob?
Yeah.
This guy. Get around
I'm
it.
also on
Get around
Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, and CFAX.
And any bat refurbs, he's your man as well. Anyway, thank you for everybody tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you down the road on another pod. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, heroes.